You know that feeling when you're standing over your compost bin, pitchfork in hand, wondering if anything's actually happening in there? I've been there too many times to count. We've all read the same advice. Turn it weekly, keep it moist, balance your greens and browns, and wait patiently for 6 months to a year. But what if I told you our farming ancestors had a method that could cut that time in half, and it's been quietly banned or discouraged by modern agricultural authorities? Let me introduce you to hot composting with fresh manure, specifically, the practice our great-grandparents called hot bedding or rapid fermentation composting. This technique was standard practice on every small farm until industrial agriculture and modern regulations pushed it to the sidelines. Today, I'm bringing this ancestral wisdom back to your garden, and trust me, once you understand why it works so brilliantly, you'll never look at your compost pile the same way again. Before we dive into the technique itself, let's talk about why you don't hear much about this anymore. Modern composting guidelines often warn against using fresh manure, recommending instead that you age it for several months before adding it to your pile. Agricultural extension offices will tell you it's a safety concern, and they're not entirely wrong. Fresh manure can contain pathogens, and if not handled correctly, it poses risks. But here's what they don't emphasize enough. When done properly, hot composting with fresh manure doesn't just speed up decomposition, it actually creates higher temperatures that kill off those very pathogens they're worried about. Our ancestors weren't reckless. They understood the science before it even had a name. They knew that the intense heat generated by fresh nitrogen-rich manure could transform a pile of organic matter into black gold in just 6 to 8 weeks instead of 6 to 12 months. Here's where it gets fascinating. Fresh manure, particularly from horses, chickens, or rabbits, is essentially a microbial powerhouse mixed with high-nitrogen organic matter. When you layer this fresh material with carbon-rich materials like straw, dry leaves, or wood shavings, you create the perfect environment for thermophilic bacteria, heat-loving microorganisms that thrive between 130 and 160 degrees Fahrenheit. These aren't your average compost bacteria. At these elevated temperatures, they work at lightning speed, breaking down organic matter faster than you'd believe possible. The pile gets so hot you literally can't hold your hand in the center for more than a second or two. I've seen steam rising off these piles on cold mornings, and it never gets old. So, the magic ratio our ancestors discovered through generations of trial and error. It's roughly 1 part fresh manure to 2 or 3 parts carbon material. They didn't need laboratory analysis. They could feel the heat, smell the earthy transformation, and see the results in their gardens. Let me walk you through setting this up at home, because once you've got the technique down, you'll be amazed at how simple it actually is. First, you'll need access to fresh manure. I know this might sound like a challenge, but it's easier than you think. Check with local horse stables, small farms with chickens or rabbits, or even reach out to farmers on community boards. Many are happy to let you haul away what they consider waste. Start by creating a base layer about 6 inches deep of coarse carbon material like straw or wood chips. This allows air to flow from underneath and prevents your pile from getting anaerobic and smelly. Then add a 3 to 4 inch layer of fresh manure, spreading it evenly across your base. Follow this with another 6-inch layer of carbon material. I love using a mix of dry leaves, straw, and shredded paper. Keep layering like this until your pile is at least 3 feet tall and 3 feet wide. This minimum size is crucial because smaller piles won't generate and retain enough heat for the thermophilic bacteria to really take over. Think of it like building a bonfire. You need enough fuel mass to create sustainable heat. Here's where the work comes in, but I promise it's worth every minute. Within 24 to 48 hours, your pile should be heating up dramatically. Insert a compost thermometer or even just a long metal rod into the center, leave it for a few minutes, then carefully pull it out and touch it. If you've done it right, it'll be almost too hot to touch. Once your pile hits 130 to 150 degrees Fahrenheit, you're in the sweet spot. Let it cook at this temperature for, about 3 to 5 days, then turn the entire pile, moving outside material to the inside and inside material to the outside. This is critical because it ensures everything gets exposed to the killing heat zone and keeps oxygen flowing through the system. You'll turn this pile every 3 to 5 days during the first few weeks. Yes, it's more labor-intensive than cold composting, but remember, you're actually cutting your wait time by more than half. After 3 or 4 turns, you'll notice the pile starting to shrink rapidly and the internal temperature beginning to drop. This is totally normal. At this point, reduce turning to once a week. Let's address the elephant in the room, those safety concerns that led to this method falling out of favor. Our ancestors might not have known about E. coli by name, but they understood heat kills disease. They always used this compost on food crops only after it had fully cooled and matured, never while it was still hot. So, yeah, follow this same wisdom. Always wear gloves when handling fresh manure and building your pile, and, make sure you wash your hands thoroughly afterward. Let your finished compost cure for at least 2 weeks after the heat has completely dissipated before using it around edibles. The compost is ready when it's dark, crumbly, earthy smelling, and cool to the touch, with no recognizable original materials remaining. If you maintain temperatures above 130 degrees Fahrenheit for at least 15 days total, with multiple turnings, you've effectively pasteurized your compost. This is actually safer than many commercial composts and, honestly, infinitely better than using fresh manure directly on your garden, which some folks still do. I'll be honest with you, once I started using this method, my whole gardening operation transformed. Instead of waiting nearly a year for finished compost, I'm now running 3 bin systems on rotation, producing finished compost every 6 to 8 weeks during the growing season. My soil has never been richer, my plants have never been more productive, and I'm not buying bagged compost or synthetic fertilizers anymore. This banned farm trick isn't just about speed, it's about reconnecting with the practical wisdom that fed families and communities for generations. Our ancestors didn't have time to wait a year for compost. They needed fertile soil now to grow food for their families, and they developed this method out of necessity and careful observation. Ready to cut your composting time in half and create the richest soil amendment you've ever used? Start by sourcing that fresh manure this week, gather your carbon materials, and build your first hotbed compost pile. Oh, and don't forget to document the temperature, take photos, and watch the transformation happen in real time. If this ancient farming wisdom resonated with you, do me a favor, subscribe to Grow with Soil so you never miss practical, time-tested techniques like this one. And hey, share this article with your fellow gardeners who are tired of waiting forever for finished compost. Let's bring back the methods that actually worked and create the abundant, fertile gardens our ancestors would be proud of. Now get out there and make some hot compost. Your garden will thank you in about 6 weeks.